Hello, everyone. And by everyone, I mean I don't think anybody yet. So I give it a second before I give my greetings. Just also going to get some files pulled up here while I can. Again, I'll wait patiently. I know I did not announce the stream in advance, but I'm sure there are some beloved Roach Crossing fans on Discord who may be sharing the link. Oh boy, I have quite a few Discord notifications to check in on. Perhaps not. Hello, wow, 0 people. Yeah, I just threw this up now. That's probably why. And it's a couple of days after the holidays, and between holidays. Thus, it's a weird time. Hello, Alan, Anthony Green, Stephen Logan. Thank you for the kind words. Hail the Roach King. I appreciate it. With that being said, I have the good news, and somebody else just messaged me a lot. Oh boy. All right, I have some peeps I gotta send some payment to for some surprise bugs. That's how it is. Hope you got everything you wanted for Xmas. Yeah, I had a good Xmas. It was nice, relaxing, as much as I could. It was good. Hello, Braden. I need to spit out that hello, Joseph, as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I need to spit out as well that I finally finished the Roach Crossing, the master Roach list. There's still some entries that need to be edited and some information that needs to be filled in here and there, and it will be continually updated as information about different strains and stuff comes available. But it's done. So by the time that the Roach Crossing site goes live, which it's going to take some time, Zen Monkey has been busy. I've been busy. Everybody's busy. We want quality over quantity after all. But the Excel sheet's done except for like the flavor text stuff for each species and strain. So all that information has been put in for the roaches, and the grand total for things that will be on roaches alone that will be on Roach Crossing is 252. That's just cockroaches alone. So that's everything that's going live when the site goes live. 252 different types of roaches. Now, that being said, I just finished tallying my isopods. Yesterday, I went through and did the big isopod inventory and husbandry. Most of my cultures are actually doing very well. I'm very happy about that. I lost a couple things I need. I was going to maybe put a want list in the Bugs You Want Discord thing. Just the unlocality, non-locality stock, and locality stock of Armadillidium fronted triangulum. And then there's a couple other just weird little odds and ends of stuff that I should get again. But for the most part, everything's doing well, especially Spanish. Big Spanish stuff is doing phenomenal. And Cubaris is very easy, fortunately. So, tallying up the isopods, there's about 250 isopods that are going live on the site, too. So, as much as I am Roach Crossing, apparently I'm isopod crossing, too. So, hello, A. So, anyways, this is a public input thing. After all, I was going to try and get start doing my information inputs here, but I like to touch base, touch in with everybody, and see what you want to see for isopod stuff on the site moving into the future. And, understanding that I am Roach Crossing, the isopod stuff will not be as fleshed out as the Roach stuff is. but it will still be good and hopefully better than most of the other sites with respect to sorting. But also the information should be top notch, just chef's kits, hopefully. So I need to go to an isopod that has full. I really do not have much stuff on the site. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Okay, there's more than I thought. 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. 57 isopods are currently on Roach Crossing, and that needs to be all the way up to 250 by the end of the update. Oh, we have some new IDs for some stuff as well. I'll have to catch up on that. I'm got to post a big list of all the isopod stuff. History of the stock would be nice. Yes, that's going to be included as much as I can. We're still trying to figure out an effective way of labeling stuff for isopods. I might just go off of the system I've been using for roaches, which is species moniker. So let's say you have those white panda kings, species panda king, comma, white or white panda, whatever the name of the morph is supposed to be. And then the only thing we're trying to figure out is, I think then you would probably do locality, species, moniker, in like with millipedes, they're using like species 1, species 2, whatever, if you have multiple out of locality or something. So it'd be like Cubaris species, platin tongue song, comma, whatever I guess whatever they're calling them. I don't know how many other species are out of tongue song, platin, wherever that is. And then if there were a mutant, it would be the mutant thing last, or the breed that somebody's created would be the last piece of information in that chain. And so that's what I'm kind of opting for. We just have to see. People are adopting. There's a couple of different systems. None of them seem to be perfect. We don't really have the best role model in like plant keeping because they don't actually really keep track of localities. It's just kind of an extra tidbit that comes along with different strains of stuff. But there are some rules for nomenclature of. There are some rules for how you're supposed to name different cultivars of things, and it seems like that could be adopted now, and just sort of everything that existed prior be grandfathered in might be the way to do it, as is often the case. So, but anyways, I'm going to open up my Roach file here because I haven't started putting isopod information in. I'm just going to open up my Roach file and see what I can copy. So the problem, not a problem, but a quirk of the isopod hobby is that with all the Cubaris jungle fever species, their common names are kind of worked into their Latin names with a lot of that stuff. And I don't know, does anybody here who works with isopods, does anybody actually bother to use common names? Because it's like everybody, huge sigh with literally everything else on the planet. Oh, Latin. I'm not good with Latin. And then everybody runs around like, oh, yeah, I got those A vulgars. Oh, yeah, I got those A vulgars, Punta Canas and stuff. So it's like, what happened to not knowing Latin names, So I'm wondering if I shouldn't even bother with trying to put any sort of common names on the isopods, because that information, again, is kind of already worked into their little gimmicky names for like the Cubaris. And then for any new stuff that we might find in the United States or elsewhere, it'll probably just be labeled as like species, the place that it came from. And if there's multiple unidentified species from there, it'll be like species 1 or species golden hemorrhoid or something after that. So I'm not. Anybody have strong feelings about Does anybody even the better question? Anybody actually even use any common names for isopods? Does anybody even bother using those? Because if you don't, it does. It won't even bother. I'm really, really inclined to not even bother with it as is. So let's see. I'll just copy some of this stuff from my Roach notes here and paste it into the new isopod document, and then I'll just sort of go through it systematically and see what I can delete for this stuff. So again, there's a little working group that's going through all this information that I'm compiling to try and get it as accurate as possible. For example, I think Lepinii is like Porcellio species Morocco was identified as Porcellio lepinii or something like that. So that'll be something that it's going to show up on the sheet, and then I'm expecting the squad to be able to be like, actually it's this now, and I'll be like, thank you very much, and then I can correct my information here. The biggest problem with isopods is that a lot of information it's a lot more flexible than roaches are. So there's a lot of things where it's like, how do you measure the size? You do average adult size, but then it's like, well, it's average adult size at a low density, average adult size at a high density, at a low temperature, at a high temperature. So there's some generalisms that have to be accounted for if you want to do some of these measurements. So basically, for some stuff, like when I measured all my colonies of stuff, I just kind of was like, okay, we'll look for a good size adult individual, and then I'm not counting the antennae or the uropod lengths in the measurements, so that makes it a little bit more understandable, I think, because you look at like the measurements for something like Porcellio bolivari, and you can make them seem really big if you include the antennae and the uropods on a male. So let's see. I'm going to start going through my Roach crossing text here and see what kind of overlap we have. I'll also check in the chat in a second here. Not going to save it just yet. All right. Europe, most people use Latin names for isopods and other stuff. There's nothing as unspecific as giant orange isopod. Sorry. Yeah, not anymore, at least. So which is nice, but there's still a weird marriage between like a common name and the Latin names in the U.S., where there's all these weird names that people have for not for specific strains or breeds of anything, but just like the wild stuff. So Anthony Green says, if we are coming to Roach Crossing, we probably aren't looking for common names anyways. That's a fair point. And again, at this point, a lot of the Latin names, especially for the Cubaris and stuff, are kind of synonymous with their Latins until further identification is given. So if people are using the common names, they will still be pointing in the right direction if someone is coming to you. Tennyson, seems you haven't been here in a while. Yes, I cut my hair. Welcome back, by the way. Crystal Pineapple. Yeah, stuff like that. Again, I have nothing against like creative names. The problem is for stuff is that they were given fancy names first, and the information about, well, where did it come from was not given. So we have no idea if some of the stuff is the wild type for the species. We have no idea if some of these phenotypes are from the same populations. And if something like silver ghost and purple ghost or something Nasodilla archangelii are from the same population or different ones. There's some intentional disinformation, like Shiro-Utsuri was sold as a locality at first. I was told in no uncertain terms that that's the name of the place they came from. And then, of course, months later, come to find out that it was just a name for the Dalmatian mutation in that species. They were calling the strain Shiro Utsuri because it's a terminology in Japanese koi pattern judgment. So, and we're not looking for, we don't, I think it is excessive to go down to the GPS point, and I can understand that a lot of those collectors are probably hiding their locations so that other people don't go in and clean them out. Understandable, I understand that, but the problem is that, without even just a crumb of that information, it obfuscates so much to the point where it's very chaotic. And now, I will give an example of problems this can cause. I was doing isopod work yesterday, and I checked on my Archangelii Yetis that I received, and I worked on them, and I went to close the bin, and I got through a couple more bins, and then I looked down on I was working on some other enclosure, and I looked down on my tablecloth, and I saw that one of the Yetis had gotten out while I wasn't looking. I lifted up a piece of bark, and it probably fell off or something like that. And I just looked at it and was like, well, I don't know what this is. Like, there's some morphological things that I could do if I want to slap this thing under a microscope, or if I wanted to pester like Nate or Tennyson to, hey, what are the characters that distinguish Nerzadilla archangelii from like a billion other isopods? Like, how do I tell it apart from my Cubaris murina glaciers and my Armadillidium nasatum wade outs and all this stuff? And it was just like, I'm mixed up. I can't be 100% sure that's what it is. How is the average person going to be, if this very same thing happens? Or at an expo, I was brought a culture of some Cubaris this is maybe like a half a year ago or something, and no names, but the person was like, yeah, this lady, she sent them to me, and they were sold as this, and then they're throwing these other lighter ones, so I started picking those out of there. And he brought them, and I looked at it, and I was like, those look like Cubaris murina papayas that like slipped in this lady's culture of some other Cubaris. And he's like, yeah, they do kind of look like that, I guess. It's like, this is at the most basic level, it's just insanity. So anyways, the fate of that Yeti, I did euthanize it because I don't take chances with anything like that. If it's out of the container, unless I literally saw it drop off of the piece of bark onto the tablecloth, I just euthanize it. There's no way I can be sure that it's not something else, or that I'm not going to be mixing up strains. So that's the problem, and it will just keep getting worse. And blah blah blah. I say this all the time, but it's good. We have a bit of a turnaround with the information I'm going to be making available. Tesson says, yeah, I've been dealing with a move, but everything's moved in well now, and I can expand a ton, which I'm excited for. Tess, I still need to I got to get a restart of the Pseudophilus from you, actually, let's wait till spring, when spring rolls around. Isn't that kind of the case with A. scabarimum? A person, what's the story with A. scabarimum? Bring me up to speed on whatever's going on. Jay says, oh yeah, I understand not giving specific coordinates, but at least want to know the region, the specific environment. Yeah, or even just like, just a close city or something. So you're in that area. Of course, it opens up the door for people still going. I don't know how it is in the parts of Asia where stuff is heavily harvested from. But it can't be that difficult to just give a town, or like put near blah blah blah. Go one town over and just say near this town, and then at least people half the planet away can like go back and kind of triangulate to figure out, okay, well, it could be one of these things because that's found in that general area. You should have eaten it. Ice pod fried rice. I actually don't like the taste of crustaceans. I don't like shrimp. I eat lobster and crab, but only if they're like drenched in butter, and it's been a very long time. So I imagine ice pods would be pretty gross to me, but hey, try it out one day and see how it goes. So anyways, looking at Roach Crossing currently, I'm going to go down to something that has a lot of information associated with it. We're going to go to the Pennypack Gold page. Currently on Roach Crossing, we have adult size, care level, temperature requirements, air humidity, substrate humidity, favorite foods, and locality. I don't know if I'm going to put temperature requirements because pretty much all my isopods are just at bug room temperature. I don't give any of them supplemental heat down there. So I don't see it necessary to mention that. I do think I should get a general isopod care guide up, which will be another week off of work at some point, but the site itself is more important right now. So temperature requirements, air humidity, substrate humidity, favorite foods, locality, and if it's a breed or mutant, who it was isolated by, and then who it was refined by, and then all of the information, the extra strain information. I think I might have to write, because I have so many like Vulgari and so many other things. I'm not sure if I need a generalized like a Vulgari text blurb, or if I can just go right into the information about each of the stock and where it was found and stuff like that. So Steven says, idea, this would probably have to come later, but information on what things should look like would be a good, like what you're doing with the crisp duckies. Yes, Steven, that is exactly what I'm going to add for some things. Top of the isopods sort function in my little blurb, like for Roach, welcome to Roach Crossing. There's, thousands of different species, blah, 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 keeping them in captivity, etc. A little blurb to introduce people. The isopod one is going to be a lot more cut and dry. It's going to be along the lines of, guaranteeing when you purchase stock from here, you are getting exactly what you pay for. You are getting pure stock that has not been mixed with anything else. And when you get lines like orange or whiteouts or Dalmatians, etc., they will breed true to the parameters that I've described them by for I think it was, I already have it in the terms and conditions page somewhere. Here we go. I guarantee that the stock you purchase is identified to species as accurately as the present science allows. All roaches are 100% guaranteed to be pure, unhybridized stock with locality information provided when available. All isopod cultivars are guaranteed to breed true within the parameters of their cultivar description. You will never receive orange, whiteout, etc. that do not consistently and only produce those phenotypes. Roach Crossing will guarantee the stability of these lines for at least 3 generations, though reversions, while extremely rare, do occur. If you have followed proper sterilization protocol for adding organic matter to your colony and individuals occur that do not match the outlined phenotype, I will reimburse you the cost of the original colony or replace it for free. That is my current guarantee on my terms and conditions page, and that blurb will be put front and center on the isopod pages, and maybe worded a little bit differently than that, but that's the basics of it. A person says, for Escaperimum, I've just seen people claim sandstone is a specific morph or stock, and others claim that it's just a generic name for the species. Really annoying for labeling stuff. Yeah, Tennyson and Nate and people here be the folks to ask about that, but I was told it was Scaberimum, and Sandstone was probably the sales gimmicky name. So they're trying to call them the Sandstone isopod, and then they just put Armadillium Sandstone or something there. A says, yeah, I think you can tell in the main text if a specific species prefers it at lower temperatures. For most species, it's usually the same. Satcha says, hey, Kyle, how's the site coming along? I just got here. The site itself has not had much work done on it. ZenMonkey is still prepping the dummy site and the search functions. The behind-the-scenes other stuff, which is actually, well, don't want to say it's more work. That is the bulk of the numbers, data, etc. work is going just fine. Roaches are done, so all the adult sizes, pricing, flying, climbing, strain information, blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff is done in an Excel file currently. So with the site, once ZenMonkey gets things up to standard and gets it ready, the hope is that the site will be able to automatically pull all of this data from this Excel sheet and perhaps even auto-generate new pages with new line additions. So basically, once the coding, etc. part of the new site is done, it should be very quick to just pull all of this information to the website. So this information needs to be done painstakingly no matter what, and it's the biggest time-consuming part other than the coding type stuff. So information-wise, it's going fine. We're doing good. I'm going to be realistic. It's looking like the site may not be up in a new form until March, and I'm okay with that. I'm very happy with the thoroughness I've done with the roaches, and I'm about to do with the isopods. And again, at some point, it will just be kind of me sitting back and asking ZenMonkey to work on stuff while I just have a bunch of documents and stuff filled with the text that I want to copy over or auto update to the website and all that. So a person says, I would do an A vulgare blurb on one of the wild type pages, then just link to that on every page, like what you do with the Venom Americano. That's what I've got for vulgare right now. Actually, it links to just the basic vulgare page. But the thing is, there's not really any such thing as a basic vulgare anymore is the problem. So it links to that page here, but it's the locality from Dearborn, Michigan, and now I think I'm up to like 30 localities of vulgare or something like that. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just do a little blurb on every page, copy paste this blurb, or put it at the very end of the paragraph. I haven't decided quite yet. So hello, Orang Mango. Thank you for joining us. A person's got to go in a minute, so apologize if anyone asks me something I don't respond. No worries, and thank you everybody who is joining me here. Again, we're just sort of discussing what we want the isopod search sort functions and stuff to look like, and I'm going kind of based off of roaches right now. And I think we're going to skip common names. I think we're going to just get rid of that. I will use previously used names. Previously used names will stay because that's where stuff like Porcellio species Morocco will go under the Porcellio lepinii Morocco. That information will go there. Adult male size, adult female size. I'm going to delete those because that's more specific information for roaches. But I'm looking for, is there a proper term for maybe ultimate size? That's a little, I don't know if that's a little bit much for isopods, considering a lot of them can reproduce far below their adult size. 50 Shades of A vulgare. Alan, remind me, I sent a picture to Satchel, but there's a strain that I collected. I think Satchel sent me some vulgare from his backyard in like 2017 or something, and I've been just sort of picking them for the yellowest females for a while, and I was doing it extremely passively, more passively than with any of my like straight up project lines, and I've gotten these beautiful like nice sandy yellow vulgare consistently. Of course, the males are still, like solid gray, but all the females are just this very nice shade of like, it's like a butter yellow. I was calling them tusks because they're from Tuscaloosa, and it wasn't really a project I was actively working on. I was just sort of like, oh yeah, let's just do this again. And I would say that every month for 6-7 years. So, Jay says, it feels like with how wide the distribution of vulgare is, there must be different care requirements, preferences based on which locale the originals were collected from. I don't really, in my experience, believe me, I have a lot of experience speaking about Armadillidium vulgare cultivars and localities. Believe me, there's not really a huge difference in the husbandry between localities, even comparing like the most drastically looking different ones, which is like the like Punta Canas. California ones are pretty different. There's kind of like, there's major brackets of groups that I've noticed. I'm not sure if there's actually if a phylogenetic tree would support this, but it seems like there's some major clades of vulgare in the U.S. There's like a Great Lakes, Eastern U.S. kind of clade where you get You get a lot of different background colors. You get more purplish and more greenish and stuff like that. And the base color, you've got like a plains, seems to be a plains group that tends to have a lot of yellow, larger size on a darker background. You've got a Texas clade that has kind of a medium body size that has a lot of yellow and green markings, like the blobs of color, yellow and green. And a lot of the males from Texas will have yellow on them, which is very unusual for Vulgare. They'll have those flecks of yellow. You've got like a California clade. You've got like a Georgia, Florida clade, like Georgia and northern Florida. You get a lot of really big ones from there. Then you got like a South Florida clade where they're a lot smaller. And then you've got like an Alabama clade, which honestly kind of has the ugliest Vulgare I've seen. Where there's not a lot of other colors. They're just kind of solid grayish, but not even solid. It's like gray brown. So temp sensitivity, not exactly the exact temp, but if something will not handle cooler environment. That's a lower temperature threshold might be a good thing to put in, because some people want to keep stuff at room temperature and some people have more devoted rooms for stuff. So a low temperature threshold might not be the worst idea. Maximum size, says Satchel. See, I don't want to say maximum size because then somebody will grow like one Porcelio Bolivare male in a cold room with no other isopods in the enclosure, and it will get like triple the size of any other one you've ever seen. So I kind of want to say just like average, expected, typical full size, maybe. Hey, Zen Monkey, I was just gossiping about you. Sorry I didn't see a stream at 7. I thought we'd skip this week. Nope, we're here for work. We're trying to figure out the sort functions for isopods. Jay says, I'm from Central Europe, and it just feels crazy to me that these guys have the same care as individual from, like, Texas. Yeah, it's a testament to how adaptable Vulgare is as a species or as a species complex. It's pretty crazy. I almost wonder, the like Punta Cana Vulgare and stuff. Speaking of which, anybody out there has pure Punta Canas? I'm still looking for them. Like, if you bought them in like 2017 or 2018 and like never added the colony and you just had them since then, I really, really need that stock back. I'm fortunate enough. I'm pretty sure I've lost my. I've gotten some mutants out of pure Punta Cana stock. But they don't have the original mix of phenotypes that I want. So it's not exactly what I want. I want that original stock with all the variation in it. But I'm fortunate enough that the harder one to get, which is St. Lucia, because they don't get as big and they weren't quite as popularized as the Punta Canas were. I still have my St. Lucia stock and it's doing really well, and that's from the original import, and I'm very happy that I still have that, because I can almost guarantee I would not be able to find pure St. Lucia stock now, but I'm really hoping for the Punta Canas. They're out there somewhere. Average maximum size sounds kind of like what I'm going for, Satchel. A Vulgaria is so successful, I'm actually not surprised they have all the same care. They're basically super adaptable. Yeah, you've got them probably every single state in the union has them. I've yet to locate somebody in Alaska. I really want Alaska Vulgare. I think it's going to be my final frontier. I have Hawaii stock already. Florida's not difficult. There's a bunch of those little forgettable states on the East Coast I still need. Stuff like that. But for the most part, I've got quite a few states filled out for them. So, Zen Monkey, I want a maximum size when grown at 30% oxygen, 70% relative humidity, 92 degrees Fahrenheit search option. You and me both, Zen Monkey. Maybe one day. Also, Czech Vulgari tend to be either like jet black, blue gray, or versicolor, since we were on the topic of the color variants. Yeah, that's the other thing with all the U.S. Stock is you don't really know what country they originated from or what populations they did. So it's you never know, and then you get a curveball sometimes where Salata, I think it is, in California, where you would look at it. Perhaps the Vulgari despising big isopod hobbyists would like flip a rock and look at it and be like, "Oh, there's Vulgari, whatever." And then like the more obsessive folks would like look close and be like, "That doesn't look right to me." And then you end up it's an entirely different genus that's been introduced. So, all right, back to the sheet. Adult size. Satchel had recommended average maximum size, and I think I like that wording. I need to put in. Without antennae, not including antennae and Europods. So it's just the body length, average body size. I don't know if I say body size or if I really need to go out of my way to say, oh, minus the antennae and the Europods. So anybody have thoughts on that? Maybe also average maximum body size. That kind of implies that those other features aren't there, I guess. Anybody feel it's deceptive to say body size over anything else? Anybody have thoughts? Snout vent length, about vent length, SVL. Typical size. Body size should get the point across. Snout vent length. You know, strangely, Zen Monkey snout vent length actually does accomplish what I'm trying to convey here, but I feel like it would be lost on the average isopod person. Hatchling newborn size. I'm going to get rid of that category actually because a lot of isopods they're born in kind of an expectable ratio to the adult size or to the average maximum body size. Time from birth to adulthood. I think growth rate. I'm content to say something's fast growing, medium, or slow growing here. I feel like I don't need that extra information. It's just, again, the thing with isopods is so variable. Body size. Okay, people are saying body size is good. So we'll keep that, and I'll put growth rate, and we'll just do a, slow, medium, fast, for that. I feel like that gets the point across. So for categories here, Caleria would be in the slow. Maybe even pure magic potions might be more in the slow range. What's another slow growing isopod? Armadillos are kind of slow. Porcelio magnificus is a little bit on the slower end too. For medium, that would be your stuff like your Porcelio flavomarginatus. I'm already starting to see that I might need at least 4 categories here. Maybe Armadillo officinalis and like Porcelio magnificus would be slow. Hilaria would be very slow. I might have to have an exceptional category there. Because then when I think medium, I think your Porcelio scaber, A vulgare, a lot of Cubaris are more in the medium, like Panda Kings and Pak Chongs and stuff like that. And then you get into fast, that's like your, more okay, very slow, medium, fast, very fast. There we go. 5 categories pretty much spans the entirety of isopods from very slow in Hilaria to very fast in Phalaniscus baldonii, or aka the dwarf purples. So yeah, there we go. Okay, 5 categories. There we go. I should be making I'm gonna finish this Excel working off the Roach framework, and then we can figure out the exact parameters for each thing in here. So another thing is lifespan. A lot of isopods kind of just sort of scale with their size to some extent. Like Vulgari and density and stuff, it's just kind of all over the place. But like Vulgari, high density, they're going to live like maybe like 6 months, and low density they can live for several years. And a lot of isopods are just kind of like that. You're not going to see a Trichorhina tomentosa probably live for 2 years, but maybe a year under ideal conditions. So I'm not really sure if putting lifespan as a sortable function is productive per se. I think that might be a better note in the flavor text. Like for Hilaria, go out of the way to say, they're very long lived or something like that. So I don't think adult lifespan is going to be very valuable. Gestation, all right, breeding speed. What if tomentosa lives for a decade but nobody? It's possible. Somebody needs to put one in a container, and then like every time they see offspring pop up, move the adult to a new container so it never gets like overcrowded or anything like that. And we just see how long they can live for. I think there's some value in that. Let's see. So I don't know if putting reproductive rate is very valuable here either, because fast-growing isopods tend to be fast-breeding isopods, and slow-growing ones tend to be slow-breeding species. It's weird because with roaches, they're kind of all over the place. Like you get a fast-growing roach, like hissers can grow very fast. You can get adult portentosa in like 3 to 6 months, and then they go on to live for like 2 years, and then they can crank out like babies every like 2 months at like the in the prime of their life. They can produce several successive broods at like 2-month interims. So with roaches, obviously I want to give that information with isopods. It's a little bit more cut and dry. And then you have, if they're stunted and they're high density, they're going to reproduce very fast. They're just not going to have huge litters like they will with more space. So I don't think that if anybody has any strong feelings about that, I don't think saying gestation incubation period is very valuable. Climb smooth surfaces, not applicable. Flying abilities, also not applicable. Mode of birth, not applicable. Minimum heat for culturing. I think it was somebody just brought this up. Stephen Logan brought the temp sensitivity. So the low temperatures they will tolerate. I think this kind of catches that, the minimum heat for culturing. I think this catches that within its umbrella, as I had used it for roaches. And some of you who were at the past things, you're telling me my American Vulgari don't fly? No, not unless they're thrown or shipped, basically. I have altered a couple of the roach categories just to make them a little bit more, the wording suit the categories I had created, but not too much editing done there. So does anybody have any feelings about minimum heat for culturing, which I had already used with roaches? I feel like it's good. So I think I separated them into standard room temperature, and then warm room or some heat, and then supplemental heat. So with the isopods, maybe it'll just be standard room temperature and warm room, or warm room. Just do the two categories. Tomentosa are like amoeba, given adequate conditions and no predation, they never die. Yeah, they could be. There could be something absolutely crazy like that. Who knows with these tiny organisms? There's that one, that hydrozoan or whatever, that guy in Japan was constantly dividing and keeping it going in that certain stage, and it never died. And I think the intention was for them to just do that forever with that strain of whatever that hydrozoan was. So, anyways, any feelings about minimum heat for culturing? Any thoughts, Stephen Logan, since you proposed the temperature idea? You have any feelings about that, perhaps? Now, this next list of stuff is we have airflow, air humidity, and substrate humidity. And I feel like I'm going to just highlight these. We're going to come back to those and have a better discussion. We're going to have a better discussion about those. All right, minimum substrate depth. Everybody knows isopods need substrate, so we're going to delete that. Naturally day active, not applicable since all isopods are nocturnal, basically. Unless somebody has some shocking information to share with me. Burrowing behavior, not really applicable for isopods per se. Preferred foods, not really applicable. Notable adult color, notable nymph color. Hissing cockroach, clearly not a hissing cockroach. Cold resistance, something else I'd put for roaches. I don't think we need that for isopods. Again, I'm trying to be pretty comprehensive, but I'm not splitting hairs like I did with roaches. There's not as much to say. Is there a category for bromation required for breeding somewhere like I've been told a winter drop is needed for stuff like Trichelpis, Ratzenbergi, since we were talking about temperatures? There was for roaches. I don't know if I'm going to do that for isopods because I don't think I will keep isopods that require that. And from my own experience with the, 15 or something terrestrial isopods in Michigan that all introduced, obviously, but they don't need any sort of diapause to induce that. I don't know about species in their native ranges, like this Trichelpis ratzenbergii, but I have a good feeling that I probably would not keep the species if it needed that. And because that seems to be the major exception and not a common rule, I will not note it, or I will not have a sort function for it. I would note it in the flavor text that this species requires a winter diapause of this temperature for this duration. Hissing cockroach may be debatable with A. officinalis. Hissing but not cockroach. Hissing but not cockroach. So let's see. Space required for a sustaining colony. I feel like this might be good info for people, but it's again dependent on splitting a bunch of hairs. So space required for a sustaining colony. I've been able to breed pretty much everything, all my isopods, in these faunarium size containers. Everything from P. magnificus down to Illumoides species. So from the biggest to the smallest. So I feel like that information probably is not the most handy, although people might like if I recommend something like, oh, this is a large Spanish species, so you should keep it in a larger enclosure. But I don't know if I want to go there. Again, I'm roach crossing, not isopod crossing. For the sort function, it needs to have a little bit more of I should not split hairs on this. It needs to be a little bit more grab and go-y for the average customer. I'm fine with the roach stuff being splitting hairs. With this, it just needs to be a little bit more for the searching. And then, of course, there's plenty of room for flavor text. Flavor text can contain all this extra information about where it was, specifically where and how it was collected, and the general aesthetic and the variation and all this, any husbandry notes, etc. So I think I'm going to delete the space required for sustaining a culture. Recommended for handling. I think I'm going to delete that too. In general, the bigger the isopod, the better it is for handling. So it's kind of just what I think people People don't like to handle dwarf whites. They want to handle large Porcelio and Hilaria. So willingness to fly, also going to delete that. Notable nymph color, I'm going to get rid of that too. Obviously, there's no nymphs. A color option, I think is good. The problem is I feel it can be reductive for some things, like especially certain localities of Vulgare and some highly variable species like Porcelio scaber kind of writes you into a corner in terms of describing things that way. But at the same time, it is nice to have a search function that shows you all the orange ones, all the gray ones, all the yellow ones, etc. Some isopods may be more willing to fly. They just need extra help, because they lack wings. Yeah, they really didn't go down that evolutionary route, I suppose. Uses. Now, this is something that I could definitely flesh. So with feeder, bioactive, and pet would be the primary uses. I could, like I did with roaches, slap on the research category in case there's anybody looking for getting stock of stuff to try and describe or to compare for things that don't have an identification. I don't know how I feel about that, though. I don't think it will be of much use to researchers doing day in, day out isopod research. I feel like pretty much all isopods are on the table for research use, I guess. But I think it is handy to separate feeder, bioactive, and pet, or hobby, I guess. A pet. Nobody cares if nobody cares if you're buying a speck of a tie spiky isopod and you call it a pet, even though you never pick it up and you hardly ever see the thing. It's still a pet, unlike with roaches, where I feel like the distinction needed to be made. Maybe you should have like a variable color option. I like that. Okay. How about, I would love this. I think I would really like this, and maybe this is something I should have done with roaches too. Pattern. So have a color for notable color, and then have a pattern options. So striped, speckled. I guess what I'm looking for here is groups of terms that describe patterning that people feel might be beneficial here. Teleportation ability should be a category. I was thinking about doing that for roaches, actually. I'm putting stuff like Latiblatella and Annelacta as teleporting roaches. Skirted. Okay, pattern skirted should be an option. Pattern are described. If everybody here, I'm assuming, has the Roach Crossing Discord, I'm going to go into general and make a thread, actually. Thread for isopod pattern terminology sort function suggestions. Let's see if I can do this. Edit, cancel, create thread. All right, and we're going to pin it. All right, so I've created a thread for isopod pattern terminology sort function suggestions. Very verbose. Go in there when you guys have time, etc., and put your suggestions in there. It'll be easier for me to keep track of versus the live stream thing here. But skirted, striped, solid, etc., those are excellent. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm actually going to go ahead and add a column. So I'm going to go ahead and add a column for pattern. I feel like this is excellent, guys. We've hit something really good here. I appreciate the suggestions already. Skirted, I would not have thought of on my own. Or yeah, skirted, etc. So very appreciated. All right. So we're going to come back to the notable. We'll just put notable color. So, something like green spots, that will be green. Orange vigor would be orange, obviously. Whiteouts will be white. Trying to think, what isopods that have a lot of variable colors, like the rainbow stock, and it's hard with like maculatum because you say black or white. It's like it's the zebra conundrum all over again. Are they black with white stripes or white with black stripes? I think there was an answer to that, which if they are black with white stripes or white with black stripes. I'm pretty sure it was black with white stripes was the answer for zebras. I'm pretty sure that was the answer. But at the same time, that's a chicken and the egg situation. This is a descriptive scenario. So do you look at a Armadillidium maculatum and do you say, oh, that's black, or oh, that's white? You would probably say striped. It's difficult. Verneri, Porcellio verneri, do you look at it and say, oh, that's gray? Or do you look at it and say, oh, I see the white? Probably say gray with that. But then the silverback ones. Anybody have Porcellio verneri silverback? I was wondering if those breed true, because I wanna finally get them. But I had some suspicions that it might be like dairy cows, where there's a couple of pictures that show the beautiful, distinct adult, and then you get a culture, and then you ask the person, hey, wait, why is there like normal looking ones in here? And they say, oh, that they just do that. They throw 50-50 that and that. So if anybody knows the answer to that, let me know, please. I'm going to go ahead and put skirted in here. There we go. First response there. So, all right. So we got notable color, pattern, uses, ease of culturing. I think a set of 3 would be a good idea here, with an easy for the stupidly easy stuff, the stuff that is nigh unkillable. And some people would say, well, what about Scaber? What about Vulgar? Myself and other experienced people have lost cultures of many of those species or never even bred them in the first place. People who have abundant success with all kinds of other isopods and insects and invertebrates. So, is there a level before easy? Maybe, because when I would say easy here, I would think Trichorhina tomentosa. First thing that comes to mind. You throw it in potting soil and it will breed. That is an easy. Maybe that's a no. Just whatever. Anybody have any idea for indicating that something is dwarf white category? Now you say that, but Platyarthris are not the easiest thing to breed, despite looking identical to Trichorhina. Okay, internet says zebras are black with white stripes. Thank you, Zen Monkey, for reminding me that they are black with white stripes. So yes, anybody have any suggestions for a category for stuff that you throw in potting soil and lives? Another good example, Porcellio dilatatus is pretty much impossible to kill. Porcellio afflevis, the dairy cow progenitor, is also pretty much unkillable. They can turn their substrate into powder and be dry and all this other stuff, and they'll still be kicking. You really can't lose with stuff like that. So I'm wondering if maybe no effort, no work, I would say brain dead, but that's very insensitive, category for stuff like dwarf whites. And then a scale up from there that's maybe like beginner or easy or something. I accept your challenge. I'm looking forward to challenging my rather impressive isopod killing skills. So anybody have any suggestions for that? Because I think putting Vulgare as intermediate might be a bit too intimate. Bulletproof. Sam, I really like that. I really like that category. See if there's another thesaurus, another term of the thesaurus for bulletproof. Invincible is that might be a little much. Unstoppable. Bulletproof is excellent. Excellent, Sam. That is exactly what I'm looking for. Bulletproof. I'm going to just put that in just so I don't forget it in as a category. So do bulletproof, easy, intermediate, advanced. Uses, feeder, bioactive, pet. Next one, Roach Crossing favorite, yes or no search function. Descriptive enough whether I think it's one of my favorites. So into that category would be like Armadillium vulgare magic potions, the OG line, Porcellio verneri. I think this is the second time that off the top of my head when I asked about favorite isopods, I've said Porcellio verneri. So Porcellio verneri, Troglodyte species green spots, the Cubar species white pigeon, that type stuff will just get the simple check in the box that I think it's a cool dude. I think it's a really cool dude. So, household infestation potential we don't have to worry about with isopods also. Cold diapause requirements, again, I'll note it in the flavor text. Search option is only useful if it returns like 30% or less of the population. If it returns like 30% or less of the population. Yes, thank you for reminding me that, Zen Monkey. Continent. I'm not going to do this for isopods because North America shares so much of its fauna now with Europe in this respect. And you're pretty much, your isopods are basically coming from North America, Europe, or Asia. That's like your three options. So we're going to do away with continent search. All right, here we go. Strain history. This will mark strain history. I'm thinking I might need an isolated by and refined by categories as well. Let's see how this goes. So strain history will be something along the lines of, let's just say for Bill Yanone's Pennypack Park, it would be isolated by Bill Yanone, refined by Bill Yanone. And again, Bill, if you're ever watching this, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. My apologies. I love your strain, though. Strain history will be along the lines of isolated from wild stock by Bill Yanone circa 2016 or whenever it was that he isolated them. Strain acquisition information will be acquired from Bill Yanone in 2018 for that. Isolated by and refined by will not be sortable functions, though. As much as I would like to stroke my ego with all the ones that I've isolated and refined in terms of strains, I don't. Maybe I'll just put this information on the pages themselves. Like not, maybe it'll be a flavor text thing as I currently have them. So if you look at, again, the Pennypack Golds, says isolated and refined by Bill Yanone. Probably a good thing to put for some of these strain names. So I guess for strain history, it will just include, when it was created and, I guess from what stock, kind of like I did with some of the Roach stuff. Like I'll have to look back to what I did for the Blaptica dubia strains I have going because there's like the pyrites and stuff. All right, and then finally we have pricing and availability. That's very straightforward. I think most isopods, because I despise, and if somebody here knows what the logic is behind this, I'm sure that there's somebody learned it in a marketing class or something. People selling stuff and saying 6 + 1. Say 7. There must be something that somebody learned that says, oh, people will buy an item more if you put that you added something to it. They feel like you're oh, you paid for the 6, but then you get an extra 1. Can somebody give me the science behind that? I'm never going to do it because I despise it so much. So that's done because it makes you think you are getting free stuff. Yes, that's basically what I thought, and I despise it with every fiber of my being. Now, with that being said, this is a major thing that you all can weigh in on here, and that is what the minimum increments should be for purchase for isopods on roach crossing. For roaches, it's pretty much 12 or 15 is usually the minimum increments, with some feeder species going up into 30. Free stuff. Where? Thank you for illustrating the point, Zed Monkey. So I'm wondering, am I old and not with the times? Should I be selling things as 8 counts? Is that what people like to do with isopods? Or is that just people selling them in 8 counts because it's the minimum you can sell people and then not freak out about inbreeding or something, and also make $600 on your cubaris or something? So I've always liked the dozen. I used to do 8 for hissers, and that was when my colonies weren't producing as well. So 10 count feels weird to me. 12 count feels a bit more rounded. So I feel like 12 can be the minimum count. There were some things where it's like, well, I would like to make more money off of this thing, like a more common strain of isopod, but I don't want to lower my price, so I'll increase the amount that you get for the amount that you pay. And so that's why there are some things that are listed as 12 counts and some things as 15 counts. But in general, isopod prices are going through the floor, so a lot of things will probably be good at 12 for X versus 15 for the same amount, or for a slightly higher amount. Cheaper by the dozen. Personally, I feel uncomfy going below 10 count, yes. So we'll never do less than 10. So it'll be, here it is. We will operate in 12 counts, and I suppose 30 counts for the minimum increments. For some things, there will be more. There will be 50, 10 plus 2. Yeah. Hate it so much. Despise it. Anyways, so 12 counts then. So with that being said, if I'm going to stick to the 12 counts, I can't do 15 counts. But what I will likely do is do 12 counts, and then a price break at a 40 count, and then a price break at 100 count. I almost said that because doing it just to spite me. All right. So there we go. So minimum counts will be 12. I could do 15, but do you think some people might see a 15 count and the price associated with it and be like, well, I don't really need 15. So I guess I won't get, I'm not going to get from here. I'll buy from somebody else who has, maybe it's the same price, but I get less. Maybe I'll buy less, I hate marketing tricks like this too. Does any strong feelings or arguments for 15 over 12? Anybody have any thoughts on that? And then availability is very straightforward. Very straightforward. Any other thoughts? Any sentiments? Otherwise, we're looking pretty good. We just have kind of like 4 more categories to talk about, and then I can wrap it up for the night. It's being a surprisingly longer stream. Worst marketing scheme I had was someone offering 122 Cubaris species amber. I remember you complaining about that, Alan. And yes, there's that space there, and it's very obnoxious. I thought it meant 122, only to realize it's one set of 22 after I paid. It's yeah. I don't like that. That's why I like consistent increments across the board. And feels more secure and not as sharp a price increase as if you had to buy like twice or something. All right. So 12 will be the minimum for isopods on Roach Crossing. Will be the absolute minimum that you can purchase. And that's kind of how it was with a lot of stuff. So it'll stay that. And then for stuff that's, more feeder, bioactive stuff, Trichorhina, some Porcellinides, etc., it'll be 30 counts. Will probably be the minimum. I feel like with isopods, more is better since they don't have a sharp space increase when you have two more. Yes, that's the other thing. If you're buying 8, you can easily accommodate 12. You're not going to worry about your enclosure being too small or something. It's not ridiculous like that. All right. So now we go back to notable color. Anybody have any feelings about notable color? So far, the two categories, I'm kind of, before we get into the most serious categories, I feel, minimum heat for culturing and notable color. Anybody have any thoughts on those? Minimum heat for culturing, Stephen had recommended earlier, something like whether or not something needed extra heat or if it would be fine at room temperature. And I feel like with isopods, there's not really many isopods that want it stupidly hot. Asterisk, because I'm not having much luck with the Marulinellas and whatnot. Maybe they want it stupidly hot, or maybe it's a billion other things that I'm doing or have done wrong. But for everything else that I've kept, the Troglodillos, large Spanish Procellio, Cynodillo, all the little tiny isopods, there does not seem to be anything. They don't seem to really want to be above 80 generally. 80 seems to be a good maximum. They'll be fine up to 90 or whatever, but you wouldn't tell somebody to try and get their culture above 80 degrees for most isopods. Do any isopods like it cooler? It's a good question. I think Trichelopus rathkii, you might be able to make that argument, but I think there's something they like about either the substrate they're fed or about like the microbiome of the enclosure that they're more sensitive to, than it being a strictly temperature thing. Ocellaris are comfortable at cooler temps, I find. So I would also second that. They seem to be quite comfortable at room temperature. But there was a time where I had Ocellaris in with a culture of Gromphidorina oblongonota that had a giant 150-watt heat bulb positioned about 2 feet away from it. And I also had Armadillidium klugii in there at the time. This is back in like 2016. Yeah, 2016, 2017. And I thought for sure, I think it was on some wild bark. And I just sort of thought, oh, there's some cool looking Ocellaris in here. I'll just leave them in here. And, if they die, they die, or I'll pick them out later or whatever. And weeks and months went by, and I remember looking in the enclosure, and the klugii were doing okay. I think that they were breeding a good amount. And then I had a bunch of Ocellaris going in there too, and the adults were like, where's my handy dandy ruler? The adult Aniscus Ocellaris were probably about 1 centimeter long, and they were reproducing in that enclosure where the hot end was like 90 and the cool end was like 82, and they were reproducing, but they were just getting really, really tiny, and I couldn't believe it. And I think what it was is the roach poop is extremely nutritious for isopods, and the roach poop with the amount, whatever the type of bacteria that was on it, the digestibility of it was just perfect for Ocellaris, and that's why they were able to do fine under those conditions. Certainly did not prefer it. 1 centimeter adult Aniscus Ocellaris is ridiculous, but they could have kept going. I eventually scrapped that whole enclosure to move the Oblongonota into something else at some point. Jay says, also, I have my local Ocellus, and they were comfortable at 29 Celsius when we had a heat wave, though they breed better for me when the temps are cooler. In Michigan, they're breeding all summer. They don't seem to have a particularly longer or shorter season. I guess I have seen more Ocellus have babies in like September, October, but you got to also look at. I don't think that those babies survive the winter. I even under some like cover outside, checking on it in the spring, you can still have very heavy mortality in overwintering isopods over the winter. Yeah, my garden OSLs just care about humidity levels. So yeah, that's if you look at iNaturalist reports for Ocellus, they're completely absent from very arid places too. So, but anyways, so I think a minimum temperature for culturing is a good idea, and you can't really, you have to try to go lower than standard room temperature really. So I think that's a good bottom end for stuff. So I'll leave that, the minimum heat for culturing, standard room temperature, warm room, or supplemental heat would be it, I guess. Or maybe room temperature and then some warmth. Some warmth kind of covers supplemental heat, but you don't want to put a heat bulb on a isopod culture necessarily either. Okay, notable color. And here's our last categories here, and then I'm going to wrap up the stream because I think we've got everything that I need. Airflow, air humidity, and substrate humidity. I'm not sure how much I need to split this up for isopods. Let me see what I need to call this document. I'm going to save it before something horrible happens. Roach crossing master isopod list. Okay. So I'm not sure how much I want to split this up because currently almost all of my isopods have full top ventilation, and pretty much all of them are doing phenomenal. With that being said, dry air is not good blowing on isopods. So, and I have noticed that when bumping the humidity for a lot of my Cubaris at the moment, I'm getting better consistent production out of them. So I'm wondering if just an air humidity, what we got here, airflow, air humidity, and substrate humidity, because all isopods do phenomenal if the air humidity is high and there's high ventilation. But I guess I'm trying to figure out what a good way. I don't want to go on my ventilation spiel with isopods because the primary way of keeping them is very minimal ventilation currently, and a lot of people have good results with that. From Rulinella, high air humidity, high airflow is a necessary distinction. They want both. Like OSLs tolerate poor ventilation. So yeah, I'm not sure which of these is important for me to keep, if I need to keep them all from roaches. Substrate humidity, pretty much across the board, I'm going to say moist. So, or half moist, half dry, or like 3/4 moist and 1/4 dry. So, because we all know that there's maybe only like one species of isopod and one strain that will take dry air, dry substrate, and high ventilation. So it feels like saying dry substrate is just kind of not valuable in these situations. So I guess that answers my question. Substrate humidity should go because you're going to keep the substrate moist. So then the distinction is airflow and air humidity. So for But then the thing is, you have like armadillo, and armadillo want high airflow, but they don't really care about the air humidity. So should it just be airflow? Should I just note the airflow and not even bother with the air humidity? Because it's implied that pretty much all isopods either don't care how dry or how humid it is, or they want it humid. So it's just more figuring out if the species is going to want some airflow or not. Like for species that want higher airflow, I can name or that want high airflow: Hilaria brevicornis, Armadillo officinalis, Porcellio ornatus, Cubaris benetensis, Venizillo arizonicus. I'm sure if I go through my list, I'll keep finding more and more. And then medium airflow would be stuff like the larger Spanish stuff that doesn't want to be bone dry, but doesn't want to be sopping wet either. So that's your, Porcella magnificus, Bolivari, Succinctus, so on and so forth. And then for lower airflow, that's like the Cubaris species amber. I think of something else that wants low airflow. Myctoniscus are pretty okay with that, although I have them high airflow. So I guess maybe I don't need air humidity. Maybe just airflow is necessary, because the underlying premise to isopods is they can't dry out. You should not let them dry out. But as you're mentioning here, if I eventually figure out what works for me for Marulinella and stuff, it seems like mentioning the air humidity might be good. Just trying to think if there's some value to talking about the air humidity. I guess I could figure this out later. I could logic it out later. Paraplaneta revisions have left me scarred and deformed, but my resolve is greater than ever. Hi, Paraplaneta missionary. It's been a while. There's been revisions. Can you link me to them? Because I want to see what happened with Brunea fuliginosa and Australasiae and stuff like that. Or are you just saying that the data that came back is scarring? A says, yeah, my Porcella Hassai, Marulinella, Red Diablo both want high airflow, but they don't want the same humidity at all in my experience. That's very true. That's very true there. Oh, yeah, Paraplaneta. It seems like some places have adopted Paraplaneta lateralis for Shelfordella. But there's currently no recommended, there's no published new genus name for Brunea fuliginosa and Australasiae and whatever else is in that clade, or Japonica. So you have some time. There's some time to cherish that they're still in the genus while you can, and rejoice that Paraplaneta lateralis is now a thing. So I feel like, your point there. I feel my power is returning. Then that's great. I feel that your point there, is that's pretty valid. Because I would also say, I guess, for many Armadillidium vulgare, I would probably say they want high airflow, but maybe they want medium or high humidity with that airflow too, or that they're more medium. They don't want it to be completely dry in the air, but they don't want it to be sopping wet either most of the time. So I guess there is some value in leaving the air humidity, and I'll have to figure out where I'm going to stand on that for every single species. It's just going to be a lot to figure out, because again, with a lot of my stuff, I just throw them in a setup and they do fine, and that is not valuable to people looking to work with isopods, because they don't know every minute detail of how I keep my things, and they may go online and see that Porcelia magnificus wants high airflow and keep my things, and they may go online and see that Porcelia magnificus wants high airflow and medium air humidity, and throw it into a bone dry enclosure and just spray once a day. I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to be too responsible with stuff for my customers, but I just want to set people up to succeed so that when I fail, I can eventually beg them to send me some stuff back. That's the main goal of everything is other people do well with it, so when I screw up, they can send it back to me, and then I can do well with it again. So, anyways, everybody, I think we're going to wrap up the live stream. Really quick to recap, here's the sort functions, or just the sort of standard information that's going to be available for every isopod. Again, not necessarily final, not in order of importance, blah blah blah. But these will either be sortable or they will be very front and center on each isopod page, and then the flavor text or whatever else below. So we have the Latin name, your Cubaris species rubber ducky, etc. The locality where applicable, strain or cultivar, previously used names, average maximum body size, growth rate. I hear the dogs snipping over something. Growth rate, minimum heat for culturing, airflow, air humidity, notable color, pattern, uses, ease of culturing, roach crossing favorite, strain history, strain acquisition information, pricing, availability, and then flavor/sales text. If you have any recommendations for things that you would like added, removed, or dichotomized, we will have another live stream next week, another work live stream next week. On Thursday, no, we won't. We might. Okay, so I have family dinner scheduled next week, but I might do a work stream earlier than the usual time, or it might be later than the usual time. But I'll try and get on here for a bit because I do have to digitize the isopod stuff, and I will not be done by then. So yes, there will be a stream next Thursday. I just don't know what time, and I don't know how long. So anyways, thank you everybody for attending. We're going to get through this site stuff together, and I'm super excited to show you all, get this information out there, see JoJo's beautiful photography that's already been done, and then the next batch, which will happen, and Lord knows when, we haven't even planned it. But I'm really excited for all these changes and to get Roach Crossing up to its ultimate form. So, and also see what the dogs are up to right now. So, family dinner live stream. I think I'll pass on that one. So, thank you again, everybody, and I will see you all next week, or maybe sooner than next week. I might even come on and do some work tomorrow or whatever. I don't know. I got a bunch of numbers I got to put in here. So, take care, everyone.